everyone, it's Bethany. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to be doing some engraving with the Cricut Maker, and we are going to engrave this little acrylic sign that is so cute. It is so fun for Father's Day. Let me go ahead and put a little sheet of paper on there so that you can see. Hopefully you can see that really well, but if not, you'll see it much better later in the tutorial. But this is a cute little engraved sign. You can personalize it any way you want. It's so easy, and quite honestly, I've been so surprised with how quickly engraving projects are with the Cricut Maker. So I've been having a lot of fun with engraving projects, and I think this is one of my favorites. So I'll share where I purchase all of the materials. They're so fun, so easy, and they make for a very fun gift for just about everyone. But of course, I personalized mine for Father's Day because that is coming up, and my husband is going to love this. This is so fun. It also comes with a cute little remote, so you can just personalize all of the colors on there, and it just gets really, really fun to play around with. You guys are going to love this. So let's go ahead and hop into Cricut Design Space. I'm going to show you how easy it is to get the design centered on the acrylic so that it engraves in the perfect spot. And it's really easy to personalize, so I'll show you how I'm going to convert my design from a cut file to an engraving file. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. I can't wait for you to see how easy this is. Okay, so before we head into Cricut Design Space, I want to go over a few things as well as talk about the material. So in terms of materials that I'm going to be using for this project, I'm going to be using the Cricut Maker. I'm also going to be using a strong grip mat. Now this is actually a brand new strong grip mat, so it's very, very sticky, which will be perfect for a project like this. You want a very, very sticky strong grip mat. I have an acrylic base here. It does have film on the front and the back, so that will of course need to be removed before we're placing it on our mat. Then I have some masking tape to help secure the material or the acrylic material to the strong grip mat. And I also have a lint roller, and the lint roller will just help when aiding in collecting all the little pieces of acrylic and all those little shavings that come off as it's being engraved. Now, one thing I want to be very, very clear on before we start is that Cricut does not recommend anything thicker than 2 millimeters in thickness for your acrylic to go through the machine. So Cricut does not recommend anything over 2 millimeters. My husband has a handy tool that helps me measure the thickness of my acrylic base that I have, and mine is 2.2. So mine is thicker than the 2 millimeters. Again, Cricut does not recommend anything over 2 millimeters, and mine is a little bit over. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Always know the thickness of your material, know the risks involved, know everything that you need to know before you decide if you want to proceed in putting this through your machine. So always do your own research, always decide on what's best for you, but I just wanted to be clear about what Cricut recommends versus what I'm going to do. But I always just want to be clear about what Cricut recommends as well. So always know all the recommendations for your machine. So what I'm going to do really quickly is I am going to remove very gently the liner that is on top of my acrylic base. Because this part is going to go in a little wooden base, I will just do my little prick right down there, because if for some reason it accidentally scratches it, it's not going to be in an area that I'm even going to notice. So that is just fine. So I will just peel this liner up. Okay, looks good. And then I was trying to decide if I wanted to leave the back liner on or not while I was putting it on the mat, but I think I'm going to take it off just so that I can make sure that I have everything lined up perfectly on my mat. So I will go ahead and flip this over, again coming down to an area that is unnoticeable. I will grab a little piece of that liner, and then you will see that that acrylic piece is nice and clear. Okay, so we have our little piece of acrylic. I'm going to set this to the side for just a moment so that I can take the little liner off of my mat and get that all ready to go. Again, this is brand new. So when I am done with this project, I will put this liner back on, and I will make sure that it stays nice and sticky. I like to try to make sure that it stays as sticky and well kept as possible, especially for projects like this that really need a sticky backdrop. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to place my acrylic piece on the mat. Now, there are little star wheels, and I already moved my star wheels all the way to the right. So these little white star wheels, you can move those. Whoops, you can move them And I am moving all of mine, there are 4, all the way to the right so that they do not come in contact with my acrylic piece, because you do not want those to roll over it. Okay, so you want those to steer clear from that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pick a corner here, and I'm going to line it up at 3 by 3. Okay, that looks pretty perfect to me. And then I'm going to grab my brayer tool and just really make sure that that is down on the mat. Okay, so I'm just going to roll that down onto the mat really, really well. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is take my tape, and I am going to tape down the perimeter of my acrylic just to make sure it is really nice and down. Now I want to avoid any areas that the actual tip from the machine is going to be engraving, because I don't want the engraving tip to come in contact with the tape, because then it might not get a very even engraving if it's rolling over tape. I don't want it to be interfering with my engraving at all. Okay, so it looks like I have about 1/4 of an inch around or on top of the acrylic where I'm actually placing that. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and do all 4 sides just to make sure that it stays put. Okay, so this is all prepped and ready to go, and now let's hop into Design Space and I will show you how I will choose my design, and then I will show you how I'm going to set it up so that my design will actually engrave exactly where I want to on my acrylic base. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we are in Cricut Design Space, and this is the file that I'm going to use. I just found this in the images section, and the title of the file is called Best Dad Ever. So what I'm going to do before anything else is I'm going to come over to Shapes and grab a square, and I'm going to replicate the size of my acrylic base so that I can size my actual design accordingly. So I am going to come up here to the width, and I'm going to type in 6.5 because it's 6.5 inches. I'll press enter, and it's a perfect square, so it'll be 6.5 by 6.5. Of course, it has a little bit of additional acrylic down here where it will go into the base, but I do not need to account for that. Okay, so now I'll talk about this design a little bit. So right now, as is, it is a cut file. See over here, it says it's a cut file. But we want to convert this to be a engrave file. So we want to tell our machine, again, we're using the Cricut Maker, we want to tell our Cricut Maker that we want this to engrave. So we need to come up to the operation type. You'll see right here it says basic cut, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to come all the way down to engrave. And then it will convert it to a style that can be engraved. So one thing I want to mention though, let me go back, is that you need to be in your Maker profile because this can only be done on the Maker. So if you are in the Explore family and you come up to Basic Cut in the operation area, you will not see Engrave. Okay, there's not an engrave option because this cannot be done on the Explore. Same with the Joy. If you are in the Joy, you cannot do engrave. Okay, it's not available. So this is to be done on the Cricut Maker. So I'm in my Maker profile, again at Operations, come down and engrave. Okay, so now you'll see over in the Layers panel that it is set to engrave. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to bring this to the front because I'm going to place it on my little template here to size it. Let's go ahead and make this template a different color. We can probably just make it pink so that we can really see a differentiation when we bring this over here. Okay, so now we have this over and we can size it for our acrylic base. Okay, so I actually think that that looks really nice. I might actually unlock and elongate that a little bit. Okay, just so that it takes on a little bit more of a square shape. Okay, so now I have everything looking exactly how I want it. What I want to do now is I want to take my file and I want to attach that together because I want to make sure that all of the design is engraved exactly how I see it on the screen here. So I want the best to be up here and the dad to be in the middle and the ever to be on the bottom. So I'm attached my little design by just saying attach at the bottom. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to say make it. Again, I have my square on there. Just watch for just one moment. I want to keep my square on there for just a moment. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to take my square mat and then I'm going to come up to the 3 circles here and I am going to say move object. And I'm going to take that over to my engraving mat, which has my design on it. So I'll click that and confirm. Okay, so this is my template for my acrylic base. And remember, when I went and placed that on my mat, I had it placed at 3 by 3. So I'm going to place my template at 3 and 3. Let me move this down so you can see. So I had my template. I'm going to place it right there at 3 inches by 3 inches, exactly like I did my acrylic base on my actual mat. Okay, so that is placed exactly where I'd like it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to visually center my design right on that acrylic base template. So I'm just centering this design right in the middle of that square where I want it. And visually that looks good to me. So now what I'll do is I will click on the square, come up to the 3 dots, and say hide. I do not need that anymore. It has done its purpose. What it was really doing was just making sure I centered my design so that it engraves exactly where I want it. Now I can say continue, and now I can browse materials. So then I'm going to scroll all the way down to other, and you will see some acrylic selections. So I'm going to select the acrylic thick 2 millimeters. Once again, as a reminder, Cricut does not recommend anything thicker than 2 millimeters to go through the machine. I'm going to go ahead and select that and say done. Now it's going to tell me that I will need to use my engraving tip. It has a little number 41 on there, so we'll load the tip into clamp B and then we will be ready to engrave. Okay, so before I do anything else, I'm just going to take a little lint-free cloth and I'm going to wipe down the surface of my acrylic. I want to make sure there are no fingerprints on the surface, and I tried my best to make sure I didn't get any fingerprints on there when actually placing my acrylic onto my mat. That's why I used my brayer tool, but just to be safe, I'll take a moment and make sure that it's completely clear. Okay, now I am going to select my tip. So I'm going to open up my little container here and I need to find my engraving tip. Okay, so it's this one right here. Again, it has a 41 on the tip, which helps remember which one is which. Okay, so I'm going to open up clamp B. I'm going to remove my fine point blade. And then there are gears that you can see, and then there is a little plastic covering. So you want to make sure that the plastic covering is in front and that the gears are exposed in the back, because you will notice there are gears in your machine. You want those to meet up with one another. So I'm going to place that right into my machine, close my clamp. Again, I am placing that in clamp B. Okay, so that is all set to go. Now I can go ahead and load my mat. Once again, as a reminder, those star wheels are all the way to the right. They are nowhere near my acrylic. So you want to make sure that you place them either all the way to the right or all the way to the left, anywhere to avoid your acrylic. Then I'll load my machine, and then I will click the flashing Cricut button to allow it to begin. So it's doing a little spinning and it's just detecting the tool. Okay, it's all done, so I can unload my machine, and it's hard to see right now, but it did a really good job engraving. Okay, so I will go ahead and take my lint roller, and I am just going to go over the surface of the acrylic, and it will remove all those little shavings of acrylic that came off while it was engraving. So easy peasy, just like that, and they are all off. Okay, and now I can remove my tape and remove the base from the mat. And I like to use just a little weeding tool just to pull up an edge of the tape just so I can get my little finger under there and be able to pull it off. Okay, so I have that done. I'm going to go ahead and remove my acrylic. What I'm going to do is flip my mat over and just bend my mat away from the acrylic gently and just put a firm palm on that acrylic base. There we go. And there is my mat off. Okay, so it's hard to see it right now, but this did such a good job. You will see it really clearly in a moment when I put it in the base with the lights, but very, very easy. This did the engraving in minutes, if not seconds, so it was really, really, really quick. So I am just going to, again with that lint-free cloth, just get any little residue that may have come off of my mat or the tape. So I'm going to turn that over and just rub that off. Okay, and that looks pretty darn good. Okay, so now I'm going to show you. So I have this little base, and then I'm going to place the little acrylic piece right down into that base, just like that. Okay, and then this little base came, you can either turn it on like this, so there you can really see the design just like so. Or it also came with a remote as well. So you can touch the top where this little power is, and you can change it that way. So cool. He's gonna love this. So neat. Oh my gosh, I love it. So again, you can do it this way by just touching that top part, or you can use the remote, and there is an on and off, so that's off, and then of course on. Then there's all the colors, so you can choose whatever color. Green, the little aqua is really neat. There's purple. Let's do the aqua. Or white. You can also do flashing, which I am not all about. Or strobe, which I'm equally not all about, but it's cool. There's a fade. So this will fade through the colors. So that's really cool. So it's just slowly fading through and changing colors in and out. That's neat. And then there's smooth. I'm not sure what smooth is. I wonder if that's another type of fade maybe. That's really cool as well. A little bit more low-key. I'm not really into flashing or strobing. That kind of gets my heart pumping a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the teal. I think that is really, really neat. You can also make it brighter, or you can make it softer. So the light down here will just change, it looks like. I believe that's what that's doing. But very, very neat. One thing I do want to mention is that it does come with only a USB. I'm going to unplug it really quick. It only comes with a little USB plug-in. So if you need to, you'll need to buy a little adapter to go in an actual outlet. But we have tons of those around here with our cell phones, so we'll just do that. We also have USB outlets quite frequently around our home that we had put in, so that will be just fine for us. But I wanted to mention it for you in case you don't have that capability. But I love this. I think it is so neat. It looks like the remote really has to be pointed towards it in order to work, but that's just fine. But so I purchased mine at 143vinyl.com. I know you can purchase these anywhere. I think they have some on Amazon as well. I was just placing an order through them, and I liked the price. I can't remember what the price was, but I remember it being super reasonable, so I threw it in my cart, and I'm so glad I did because this is going to be so fun. I love it. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this. Please be sure to give this a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you on the next video.